was a fighter. She struggled for years with cancer until it took her life far too soon. Leanne Pierce passed away from cancer. You know, Quinn, you and I spoke with her back in May of 2021, and she left a real impression on both of us and so many other people.
You know, we started the podcast in February 2021, and Leanne was certainly in our top 10 list of people that we wanted to talk to. And I think one of the main reasons was her ability to share her personal experience for everybody to see and to read. And it's, you got to think it's tough to put your life out there like that. Now, we know that that's generally what social media is for. People put their lives out there. But this is a little bit more personal and a heck of a lot more emotional a topic to kind of deal with. But I think she certainly felt that if she could share and if she could enlighten some folks on how things were for her, that maybe it would help comfort others in a similar situation. And I'm sure she accomplished that. It's hard to judge whether she did or didn't, but I'm pretty sure that happened.
You know, not once during our conversation with Leanne did you ever get a sense that, she felt sorry for herself, and she certainly had every reason. I mean, her battle, I don't know how she did it. I really don't. And she's been such an inspiration for so many people, particularly those battling cancer.
Yeah, exactly. And so, what we're going to do is we're going to air what follows is going to be the entire conversation that we had with her. And please have a listen and realize that, you're not alone in the struggle. Reach out. There's people that are there to help you.
On September 8th of 2015, she was first diagnosed with stage 3 invasive lobular carcinoma. She's going to explain what that's all about and the treatments that she's had to go through. She keeps in very good spirits, although it is difficult for her at times. She does have family nearby, and of course, with the added COVID restrictions, like everyone, it's causing some concern as well. She has done many things to try and make her life a little bit better, a little bit brighter. One of them is through her writing and essays. She also has a horse, which we're going to ask her about. And she started writing a book about her experience with cancer back in 2015. Leanne, hi and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
So, if you would go back to that day, September 8th, 2015, what do you remember about that when you were told that you had cancer?
I remember it very clearly. It's probably a memory that will never, ever leave my mind. And I had a lot of testing beforehand, so I kind of was expecting it, but yet I wasn't. It was still a complete shock because cancer does not run in my family. And breast cancer, especially, we don't have the gene. None of the women in my family have died from breast cancer. So when I got the call, I was sitting here at the table after having gone through a lot of tests, like a couple weeks worth of tests. And I got the call from my doctor at 10:15 a.m. And he said, I'm sorry, Leanne, but it's cancer. And in that moment, my throat closed with panic and fear, and my stomach dropped out of the bottom of me, and I just sat here in shock. And he said that he was going to wait, through his lunch hour to talk to me if I could find a drive into his office right away. And so I called my mother, and she came down right away, and me and my partner and my mom sat here in the living room and we all cried, and we didn't look at each other because we couldn't through the tears. And then she drove me to town to my doctor, and he explained that I was going to go on a journey. And I don't remember what he said kind of from there, because I was in shock and wishing that the floor would open up and literally swallow me, and that I would wake up from it and it would be a bad dream. But it didn't turn out to be a bad dream. It turned out to be reality. And so he explained to me what my cancer meant, and then I did the research and started reading everything I could about it. Once they had done the biopsies and determined that I was triple positive for invasive lobular carcinoma, which is an extremely aggressive form of breast cancer. And I learned that triple positive is also extremely aggressive, and that I would need aggressive treatment to hopefully put it into remission. So they made an appointment immediately with the oncology department here in Yarmouth. I was very lucky because I didn't have to wait for anything. And I want to really stress that, I didn't have to wait for the biopsies. I didn't have to wait for MRIs, CTs. Like, they saw me right away and they got me into care right away. So I went to the cancer center and met with the oncologist who came down from Halifax. And he was very brilliant and very good, and very reassuring. At that point, I had already gone into the meeting with the decision made that I was going to refuse all treatment and just, let myself pass by the cancer instead of doing the treatments, because I didn't think it was okay, or that I could handle it. I didn't think that I could handle it, doing the treatments and putting my body through all that stuff. So I told him that I was going to refuse the treatment, and this was on a Wednesday, and he had me scheduled for my first chemo on Friday. So, I didn't have a lot of time to think it through, and he was kind of taken aback, I think, and he talked me down off the ledge. I asked him to explain how death by cancer would look and how it would affect a person's body. And he was very kind in explaining it, but he was also very honest. So it really gave me something to think about. And I went home for 2 days and thought about it. And then he had me rescheduled for the first chemo the following Thursday, because he asked me how long I would need to think about it. And I said, well, give me a week or so. And so he had me scheduled for the next Thursday. And in that time, I just threw myself into other projects and always had it in the back of my mind. And I showed up for the chemo on the Thursday. And he had given me a choice. Like, he said, just do one treatment, He gave me an out. He said, just do one treatment, and if you feel that you can't handle it, then you can call it off. Don't come back. That's okay, perfectly understandable. So then I felt not so trapped. So once I did that one, it was actually okay. And it didn't affect you, because I find out later that chemo sometimes has a cumulative effect. So by the time I got to the third one, I was really kind of wishing I hadn't have gone that far, because it was brutal. Stage 3 treatment is really hard because the goal is to push the cancer into remission or to kill it altogether. It was I did 6 rounds, and by the end of it, I was it was really hard, and they gave me 2 months to recover from the chemo before they did the mastectomy, because they needed my body to be strong and healthy for the recovery of the surgery. So on March 1st of 2016, I had a mastectomy, and the surgeon came in and told me that he had got everything. They took out lymph nodes as well. That's what made it stage 3, is it had traveled into my lymph nodes. And he came in and told me that he had got it all and that I was, cancer free. So I was very relieved, and they followed me for 2 years with, regular mammograms, CT scans, blood work, everything. They were very thorough in following me, and on, I think it was February or March of 2018 that I was declared. Oh, it was March 1st, 2018, because that's 2 years. So I was declared 2 years cancer free. And the belief is if you can get to 5 years, that your likelihood of having cancer reoccur is the statistics go way down. Like if you can reach that 5-year mark, then you're basically home free. So I was really hoping to get to 5 years, and at 2 years, I was like, okay, you're almost halfway there. Just keep going, keep taking care of yourself. And I had before that, I lived a very healthy lifestyle. So the cancer was even a bigger surprise. But on April 4th of 2018, I had a massive seizure here in my house, and I was taken to the hospital by ambulance. And based on my medical history, they immediately did a CT of my brain. And that's when the doctor came in with a social worker and a nurse and told me that my cancer had come back and it was metastasized to my brain. So I wasn't surprised again, but at the same time I was surprised. But in a way, I was relieved, because for those past 2 years, I always felt like there was a monster chasing me, and that it was the cancer, and that it would sometimes tap me on the shoulder and say, hey, you, I'm back. And this way, I didn't have to be afraid of that happening. The monster was already there sitting on my shoulder, but in my brain. So after I shed a few tears, I said, okay, so what are we going to do about this? And he told me, I'm going to go to Halifax and meet with a radiation oncologist, and neurosurgeon team took over with the radiation oncologist. And anyways, they all figured out a treatment plan immediately again. And we went to Halifax, and I did radiation on the tumors. They said at first I had 3 tumors in my brain, and then they changed their mind and said, no, maybe it's only 2. But I think they were probably right from the beginning, because I've in total had, I think it's 6 or 7. And we've managed to get rid of a couple permanently, but I do have 4 that are active right now. So I've done a lot of radiation. I've had to have masks made, like a cast for my face that they bolt down to the table to have the radiation, so you don't move, like even a millimeter can seriously mess up things, because if they hit the healthy tissue, the healthy brain tissue, and don't hit the tumor, it can be really disastrous. It's all very fascinating the way the radiation works. I asked them to give me show me pictures and show me the diagrams, and it's very scientific. They have
It's very pinpoint accuracy. Just to interrupt you for a second, Leanne, compared to what it used to be. I mean, it used to be very broad, and now it's like almost laser focused, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it is. And when they showed it to me, like what it looked like, I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. That because I had stereotactic radiation, which is a targeted radiation, because today, like, they want to avoid whole brain radiation as much as possible, because that is really damaging to all the healthy tissue, and they say that is a last resort. So all the radiation I've had so far has been targeted, but it like I say, it killed a couple of them, but it has formed necrotic tissue around 4, which is dead cancer cells that build up and build up and build up as the cancer dies, and then there's no place for the necrotic tissue to go unless you have surgery. And so I've asked to have a craniotomy to go in and cut it out. And the neurosurgeons here in Nova Scotia have said that they won't do it because of where the tumors are located. There is an extreme possibility of leaving me permanently paralyzed. So they don't want to risk it. There might be neurosurgeons in Montreal or Toronto that would be willing to do it, but at this point, with COVID, I'm not willing to travel out there and leave my family. And then if something goes wrong, my family can't come out and see me. So we just have to learn how to deal with the necrotic tissue and the swelling around the tumors, which I'm on steroids for.
Leanne, you have stage 4. Is there a stage 5?
No, I'm at the end of the stages. I'm terminal. And I don't think people actually understand what metastatic cancer is. And when any type of cancer metastasizes to other areas of the body from the primary tumor, it's automatically stage 4.
How have you internalized all that? I mean, and dealt with it? For two, first of all, you get diagnosed, you go through all of the treatment, then you are understanding that, you're cancer free for 2 years, then you have the seizure, and then you're back at it again. How does a person?
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
Well, when I first met with the radiation oncologist, I asked him, what the prognosis was. And I said, like, with it in my brain, how long do I have to live? And he very bluntly said, well, 2 to 3 years. And when I first heard that, I was terrified. Like all kinds of things flashed through my mind, and especially my daughter and my grandson. And I think I went into shock because at that time the oncologist had got up to go out and get some files and information. So I was left alone sitting in that office, and I just started crying softly. And then he came back and he gave me, details and times and dates for when we would do the radiation. And as we drove home after, I again was in shock. And then as time went by, I figured out that I wasn't going to be that statistic. And I made up my mind to 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 beat it and to do everything in my power to outlive it and outlive his prognosis. And so I just started filling my mind with positive things and reading positive things, researching. I did a lot of research about this type of cancer when it travels to the brain, what type of treatments are out there. I signed up to learn all about the clinical trials and everything that comes available in Canada, that once it passes through the States with FDA approval, it travels into Canada because Canada has really strict rules. And I just signed up for all kinds of newsletters. I just learned everything I could. And I went into the meetings with my oncologist completely prepared with questions. And I had them written down, and then they would answer me, and I would go research that. And I think knowledge is power. So if you don't advocate for your own health care, and this goes for everybody, if you don't advocate for your own health care, you might not get as far as you could. So basically, saving my own life has become a full-time job. And sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes it's exhausting. And because I am in treatment right now, and I'll be in treatment probably until I die.
Are there any leading edge treatments on the horizon for you, Leanne? Is there anything experimental or
I'm in a
that
study
age?
right now, actually. Yeah, I'm in a study that has just come on the Canadian market. It just passed FDA approval in the States recently, and it's a very new drug in Canada. So at this point, they're not really sure 100% if it's going to be successful or what the side effects maybe are over time. But it's called neratinib, and it's mixed with another drug called capecitabine. So the hope is that the two of them in combination together will cross the blood-brain barrier and zap that cancer that's growing up in my brain, because the difficulty with treating metastases that's in the brain is that none of the drugs that are currently out there will cross the blood-brain barrier. And the reason why we have the BBB is, of course, to protect our brains. So hopefully this is getting up there. I'm scheduled to have an MRI at the end of May, so we can see if it's starting to work or not. And then if this one doesn't work, there's one that's coming up in the fall. So I might be able to get on that one.
Leanne, we hear a lot about breast cancer awareness in general, but and funding for that and research. But does that also apply to this specific type of cancer? You have the 3 invasive lobular carcinoma?
It does, but only if it's early stage or stage 3. There's not a lot of awareness given to metastatic breast cancer or fundraising that's given to it. People don't even understand usually what it means. And I think that the reason why when people are raising money, like different groups are raising money for breast cancer awareness, it just goes to stage 3 research and awareness, because I think that when you're stage 4, they've kind of written you off.
It's a numbers game.
It is. Yeah, it is. Like people want their money to go to something that's going to save lives instead of prolonging them.
With the brain cancer that you have right now, sorry, Gary, with the brain cancer that you have right now, is that a common type, or is it a little bit more on the unique side?
It's kind of rare, but for the type of breast cancer I have, it's been known that it's first place it will travel is to the brain. So
Since you've started lobbying and advocating for more awareness of this type of cancer, Leanne, are you finding, you mentioned here in some of the background you sent us that you often use your Facebook platform and the group
yeah,
started by Derek Lesser and Sandy Dennis, the
yeah.
cancer support group. Are you finding now that others are kind of joining in and saying, yes, we need to get this out more?
I'm not finding that that per se, but I am hearing from people that I'm educating them. I've taught them a lot by reading my posts about what exactly metastatic breast cancer is, because when it went to my brain, people said, "Oh, she has brain cancer." Well, no, I don't. I have actually breast cancer that's in my brain, and it's also traveled to my bones and my lung. So it's not lung cancer or bone cancer. It's breast cancer that the cells have broke loose and traveled, through my bloodstream and anchored themselves in different areas and started growing there. But if they biopsied it, it would still be breast cancer. So I think I've educated a lot of people on the difference between the cancers. There's hundreds of strains of cancer out there. There's hundreds. And I think that's why finding a cure is more difficult than people understand.
Do you find, Leanne, that, talking about it, educating other folks, and mentoring them through the process, a bit therapeutic for you as well? Is it helping keep your spirits up?
It is. It really is. For every message that I get, and I do get a lot of private messages telling me, "Thank you. You've put into words what I can't say. And you've helped me understand what my mother is going through, or you helped me understand what my sister is going through." Every one of those messages keeps driving me forward. It brings a purpose to my life that I never knew would exist for me. And it's very, this is kind of weird to say, but it's very rewarding, and it helps me through the dark times. Like I'm not going to say this is all sunshine and roses, because it's not. But when I get into a dark place, I will be thinking about the people that I've helped and the positive messages and cards that I get. And I'm like, you need to keep going. Like, you need to keep helping these people, shining the light on this disease and how hard it is to deal with and what it can do to families. It it's not only hard on the patient, it's hard on the entire family. So and writing about it.
Yeah, you keep a journal or journals.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Does that must help as well? Obviously, to do you do that every day?
I do. I try to, anyways, unless I start writing in my journal and fall asleep and wake up and find that the pen is scribbled across the page, which I've noticed a lot lately. So yeah, it's writing about it is really helpful, and then getting published so that other people can read it and getting feedback from them has been really helpful for me. And it gives me a purpose again, to get up in the morning, because right now I can barely walk. I have to use a walker or a cane because my motor coordination and my balance is quite bad. But it gives me a purpose when I open my eyes. I'm like, okay, you can't go out and walk around in your garden, but you can sit at the table and write and put your story out there.
For all the negativity that we see and hear on the internet and on social media, certainly this
Hmm.
is a testament to the power of good in the use of technology.
It is. I agree. Yeah. It social media is what you make of it. I think if you go on social media to be negative and, just complain and whatever, then that's what you get back. But if you use it as a positive platform, as an educational platform, as a way to spread light and love, then that's what you get back.
I'm just amazed at you, Leanne, and your message that yes, there are dark times and dark
Hmm.
days, but you don't allow yourself for those dark times to swallow you up. You fight back and
I do.
remain positive. And what a message for all of us, really.
It is, and I think that's the other message I try to spread around is be grateful for everything you have. Um, Wake up in the morning with a smile in your heart and just try to think of at least two things that you're grateful for. Everybody goes through bad times. Everybody goes through dark times, hard times. It's all part of life. But if you can at least think of two things, like right now as I'm talking to you, I'm watching a swallow uh, on my deck flying into this bird feeder, and that brings a smile to my face.
It's the simple things, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah, I had, I had a couple of ducks come to my window the other day, and I took, I took such great pleasure in that. So
Yeah,
I know what you're saying. You wrote
yeah.
something very interesting, Leanne, when you sent us some background information, and I'll quote what you wrote. You said, "When I first got diagnosed, I went looking for books and TV interviews with people, celebrities, but they ended up making me really angry. They weren't voicing
Hmm.
my feelings, they were making it all Pollyanna sunshine." What did you mean by that?
Do you know that movie Pollyanna?
Yes.
It's all very cheerful, and sunshine. I meant that the the celebrities are supposed to sell books. Well, celebrities being negative or being honest about cancer isn't going to sell books. So I noticed that they were all really happy. They talked about the treatment, whatever, and then it was all like a positive ending with a fairy tale ending. And my mom had showed me interviews that because she was a devoted Ellen DeGeneres fan, and she would be like, "Okay, so Robin, whatever her name is from NBC, and Joan London from I don't even know these shows because I don't watch TV." Anyways, mom would tell me about them, and she's like, "Well, watch this interview with so and so who has cancer," and I'd look it up on YouTube, and after like 10 seconds, I would turn it off because there they were all smiling, all happy. Yes, we beat cancer. And oh, it was terrible at the beginning, but now it's wonderful. And I would get angry and throw the phone because it wasn't my journey. I was feeling like I just wanted to die. And I'm like, these people aren't telling the truth. They're not telling about the dark side of it. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to tell the dark side, but also the positive side, the happy side. I wanted to be honest but balanced.
Do you find the positives are outweighing the negatives at the moment? Are you on a good place?
This treatment that I'm on right now is really brutal. So this is it's a hard one to get through. It takes all my energy, as you can tell. I'm kind of winded when I talk. Um, it takes a lot out of me, but I'm still happy. You know, I'm still I'm still I'm still okay as long as I see the birds outside and the forsythia bush that's really bright yellow on my lawn, and know that I can see my grandson after daycare and my daughter, um, and my horses. You know, there's all kinds of things to be happy for.
Yes, we watched a video. I think you posted a couple of one of your horses, and just watching
Yeah,
him run around
yeah,
outside. Well, obviously outside. That
yeah.
obviously gives you great joy.
It does. I love him, and I have a mare too, and I love her. I'm very grateful for my horses and my little dog. She's getting really old, but she still makes me happy, and she's very loyal. She sleeps beside me every night. So um, it's it's uh, it's very simple things, like you say. It's not about the big things that bring joy. It's the little, it's nature, animals.
It's ironic, isn't it? I guess that's the best word to use. That sometimes it takes some tragedy in our lives, or
Hmm.
to kind of set us back and refocus on things that are important, like like
Yeah,
those little things, friends and family and all of that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the ironic thing is, I was already like that to begin with before I ever got this diagnosis. I was one of the people in the world who looked around and gave thanks for everything. Like when I went out in the morning to feed the horses, I never took it for granted. I said thank you so much to the creator or whatever you want to call it. I gave a word of thanks for letting these horses be in my life. And then I would go out and fill the bird feeders, and I would give thanks to the bird feeders and the birds and the flowers and everything around me and my house that I lived in. And I didn't take anything for granted. So when this happened, I um I questioned it. I think on a deep level. I was thinking, like, why would the creator let this happen to me, to teach me a lesson in gratitude when I was already a grateful person? But what I realized, it was maybe to have me pass that message on to other people, to be grateful for everything they have, and also to, I lost my train of thought.
No, I definitely understand your process there, and I think there's probably a bunch of people out in the world right now that need a little bit of a little bit of that lesson.
Yeah, it's true. And that's what I was going to say. It has, the one thing it has really taught me is to remove all negativity and toxic people and things from my life, which before the stage 4 diagnosis, I I didn't do it, but I didn't realize it's very easy for us to allow negative people, negative thoughts, negativity in general into our brains, and it takes root there and travels all throughout us, and we end up being a negative person. So it wasn't just that I didn't need the lesson in gratitude, but I needed the lesson in negativity and eliminating it from my life. And I think that's an important. message to pass on too.
I know one thing that I learned a while back, and it was a tough lesson to learn, is that there's a million and one things in life you cannot control and very few that you can. And you
Exactly.
just gotta focus on the stuff that's within your realm of control. The rest of it's
Yeah.
gonna fall wherever it may anyways. There's no way in the
Yeah.
world that you can take responsibility for or influence or whatever what other people are going to do. They're going to do what they're going to do anyways. Things are going to happen the
Yeah.
way that they happen. You need to just make sure that you're focused on what you have control over.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's how I try to live my life now. I try to focus on my own behavior. What I'm doing, is it positive? Is it negative? And live in the moment. Like, don't plan for 6 o'clock or tomorrow. Just live right in the here and now, and the rest will take care of itself.
Your essays, are they available for folks to read? Because your message is one of the strongest, most positive messages that I have ever heard, and I mean that sincerely. Can folks access some of your writings? I know you got a book, and
It's
I'm going to ask you about that in a minute.
right. Right now, I'm published in Dreamers Creative Writing Magazine. So if you go on their website and type in my name, then it will bring up my two essays that they have published, and they're going to publish another one in June. And right now, I think it's 3 entered into contests. So based on what the outcome of that is, it might be in their magazine and on their website.
Yeah, it's been shortlisted, I guess is the term they use.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I was shortlisted, and that was really exciting. That felt like being nominated for an Academy Award.
You might be a Pulitzer winner. You never know, Leanne.
Well, you just really don't. You never know what life has planned for you.
For sure. I know that, as you said here in some of the background, that you kind of had to put that book on the back burner for a while
Yeah,
when you were diagnosed with stage 4. Obviously, I can understand that because, as you said, I did not know how to continue with it in a positive light. But you did.
yeah,
That again, you overcame that.
yeah. The thing is, I had all the book outlined in my mind, and I knew what the beginning and the middle and the end was going to be. But that was at stage 3, and that's before my mother um, died of lung cancer. And it just it threw the whole thing into like a tailspin, and I was lost and how to continue with it. But then when I went to stage 4 and I started chronicling all of the things that happened with this, I thought, you know what? I'll just do it as a series of journal entries and essays, and then it ends where it ends. So I actually don't have a definite ending in mind. Probably when I get really sick and I'm ready to go, I I picture myself asking my daughter to pass me my journal so I can write my last thoughts. And I think that will be a perfect ending because it will be the truth.
Wow, Leanne, I hope it is a story to be continued for a long time.
Me too.
Yeah, yes, you're a fighter, and you're an inspiration, and we thank you so much.
Well, thank you. It's been really great talking to you.
And we appreciate so much you sharing your story, a very difficult story, but the positive message is just amazing, Leanne. And fingers crossed on that book. We'll keep watching for that, and you never know.
Yeah.
We'll chat with you again perhaps when you're a famous author.
Well, I hope so. And I also told my radiation oncologist, the one who gave me a 2 to 3 year prognosis. I said, well, I'm going to be at your retirement party. He's younger than I am, I think. I said, I'm going to be at your
Good
retirement.
for you.
And he just laughed and he said, you know what? I wouldn't doubt it.
Leanne, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been great, and congratulations on the success of this show, the podcast. It's really wonderful. It's bringing a lot of positive light into the community, and people are really excited for every episode, and that's really great to see on Facebook.
Thank you for the kind words. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And we'll give Leanne the final words.
For every message that I get telling me thank you, you've put into words what I can't say. Every one of those messages keeps driving me forward. It's very rewarding, and I will be thinking about the people that I've helped and the positive messages and cards that I get. And I'm like, you need to keep going.